Hi everyone, it's Rachel from Mini Ministry, coming to share some encouragement with you today with your evangelism. Now we all know that Jesus told us to go into the world and share the gospel, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. But you know what? Sometimes that's easier said than done. But I think sometimes we just lack encouragement to help us do evangelism correctly. And so I'm here today to give you some encouragement that I think we don't really talk about enough or hear enough. So I'm sure many of you know evangelism. You go out and you share the gospel with those around you. It could be with your waiter at dinner. It could be with someone you meet on the street. It could be with friends, family. It's sharing the good news of Jesus Christ with the people around you. But I was watching an interaction the other day on YouTube, Jeff Durbin video. I like watching his stuff. And he was interacting with some Jehovah's Witnesses. He sought them out. Obviously, it was a planned moment because he had the camera set up and was like, hey, I'm going to go talk to them. And so he's in an airport and he's speaking to these Jehovah's Witnesses. And he already had a plan. He already had a thought process in place for what he was going to say and how he was going to act to them and with them. And it was about a 30-minute interaction. It was really, really good. But here's what I took from that interaction. Not only the good tidbits that he gave as things I could say when I meet a Jehovah's Witness and the interaction I witnessed, but through the course of this, now, like I said, they're in an airport. And he's over here talking to these Jehovah's Witnesses. But there was a lady. She had went and gotten her bag. She was obviously waiting to be picked up from the airport. She had come around where Jeff was and was listening to the conversation between him and the Jehovah's Witnesses. And there were a couple times she kind of turned around and kind of looked over. And a couple times she kind of went like this. And a couple times she nodded her head. But I noticed she tended to lean that way. She was listening, intently listening to the conversation, even though she was not a part of it. The person called, obviously, to come get her, and she's like, okay, I'll be at this gate, and you could see she was using her hands. But when it came for her to go, she kind of looked over where Jeff was talking to these Jehovah's Witnesses, and she was like, it's like she wasn't ready to leave. She wanted to hear the rest of the conversation. And that brings me to why I'm here today. We often think of evangelism as those we talk directly to. The person that we see on the street, and we're like, I'm going to go share the good news of Jesus with them. And good for you. I hope you do. And that's all great and good. But here's the thing. Sometimes evangelism ends up not being for the person we actually meant to evangelize to. This is a perfect case in point. This woman was not at all who Jeff Durbin was evangelizing to. That was not his goal, but absolutely was planting seeds in this woman's mind and in her day of Christ. I know there have been times when I have sat at a restaurant and I've been sharing the gospel with somebody. And there have been times where I've looked over and I've seen somebody one table over kind of leaning this way so they can hear the conversation, or I see a head move, or I see heads nod or something. And I get the inclination that they're also listening. See, we often think evangelism is strictly for that person we are meant to speak to, but that's not always the case. In fact, I would say sometimes rarely it becomes the case, because evangelism should be our lives. Everybody around us should see it and desire for the hope that's in us. So let me share this other interaction with you. I was at a fair one time and we were doing some evangelism, and I saw these two young teenage girls. Must have been probably, I would say 16, maybe 15, 16. And I went up to one of them and started sharing the gospel. And her friends right there with her, they were arm in arm, cute girls, and was sharing the gospel with them. One absolutely was listening. The other one could care less. But here's the point. I look over and there is a couple teen boys. And the one teen boy was trying to listen in, but he didn't want to crowd in on the conversation because he wasn't invited, right? The girls walk away, thank me for their time, all that good stuff, right? The boy walks over and asks, can I ask some questions? He wanted to know. I didn't go to share the gospel with him, which I more than was happy to. I'll share the gospel with anybody. But my heart was set on those two girls. I saw a need and I felt compelled to share it with them. But then this young man came over and we ended up in a great discussion. Sometimes our evangelism goes to the person that we don't intend it to as humans. We seek out this one person and we might think, okay, I'm going to focus on them. I'm going to share the gospel, answer their questions. But it could be the person sitting next door. It could be a person waiting in that same walkway that's just there that happens to hear something that catches their attention. It could be the lady at the airport who just happens to be there hearing this conversation. every conversation you have about Jesus is important and valid. So even though maybe perhaps you feel that you were giving a great conversation with somebody about the Lord and you feel like it didn't go anywhere, just remember that there could have been somebody else walking by or in the midst of that maybe did hear something, and you watered their seed or planted a seed in their mind. That's the whole point. We don't always do the harvest all ourselves. One plants, one waters, one harvests. It takes a village, so to speak. And that's certainly true in evangelism. Sometimes we see it immediately. People do repent and people come to the Lord, and it's awesome when that happens. But most oftentimes, evangelism is us just repeating the information or sharing the information to get them to think through and plant those seeds in their minds to help them to come to understand the greater truth. So next time you're out sharing the gospel, I want to encourage you. Remember, you're not just sharing it with that one person or those two people in front of you, because you never know who is listening and who might need to be hearing the message more than even those directly in front of you. I hope you all have a good day and a great week. Enjoy sharing the gospel.